the hour, or we are right at the top of the hour. So to ensure that we have the appropriate time to go through our special topic today, we will go ahead and get started with today's feedback forum. So here is our agenda today. We'll talk about a couple of housekeeping rules. We will look at the remaining training that we have scheduled. We'll look at the asset that was recently released. Of course, we'll share our contact us information for anyone that might be new to the team, and then we'll move right into our special topic. So if you have joined the meeting via your phone number or your user number is what is displayed. Please take a moment to change that identification to your first name and last name so that we can record your attendance on the application. If you have questions during the presentations, please enter those questions in the Zoom chat, which will be moderated by the IT EPMO team, and the presenter will address questions at the end of each segment or during the Q&A. Use your Zoom raise your hand feature for the presenter to recognize the need to address any questions immediately. And then again, during the Q&A session, please use the Zoom raise hand feature so that we can address questions in an orderly fashion. Here is the remaining training event that is scheduled for the Tuesday training for Q4 this year. We have the PM refresher training, and this is an optional training session. Of course, you can view our training session at the link on SharePoint. This link will be active in the PowerPoint presentation, which will be distributed after this meeting. We recently released the RACI matrix. It is on the IT EPMO SharePoint site in the Tools and Templates folder. The enhanced CRC steps remains in progress, and we look forward to releasing that very soon. We will communicate the actual release date as soon as we have it. And then integration COE deliverables. We've had a peer review of the presentation, and you will be privy to that in just a few moments. So for anyone, pardon me, getting a little bit of a delay with this. For anyone that needs to know how to reach us, you can reach us via our IT EPMO office hours, which occurs every Thursday, 10 to 11 a.m. You can reach us at our PMO mailbox at the address you see there. And then you can also submit a ticket in ServiceNow, and your inquiry will be addressed via that avenue. So with that being said, let me see. Umesh, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, Salita, thank you very much. Appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. I'll over to you.
And a very good morning to everyone. Let me just share my screen, hide few of this, and we can get started. Very good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I know everybody is getting prepared for holidays. Wishing you all happy holidays. Hope everybody will get a chance to recharge and recoup. Just to give a brief introduction, I am Umesh Ranganathan. I am part of the Integration Center of Excellence, as we call it as here, COE. I work closely with Bindu, who is the leader for the integration space. The purpose of today's meeting is to give a brief overview of what integration COE is, what is the agenda, and more importantly, how the integration COE's processes is going to help the projects to deliver the integration. So we'll look into the details of those. We have closely worked with PMO in the last few months, I should say, and we developed our execution process that is in alignment with the stage gate process. So we'll walk through that at a high level. Priyanka, who's my co-presenter today from Integration COE, would walk us through the high level deliverables. And what I would do is go through stage by stage the kind of activities that we'll be doing. And then we will summarize it with the governance activities. And of course, we'll have some time for Q&A as well. That said, we'll get started. What is Integration COE? It is a newly formed team. We formed it in Q2 of this year based on Zishan's strategy to organize based on towers, which will focus on integration. There are a lot of content here. I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm going to have some key highlights for the purpose of this team. The first thing is this is a team that is planned to deliver integrations for all the projects. It'll have the expertise, it'll have the resources, it'll still be funded by the project, the scope will still be driven by the project, but it'll bring in the technical expertise, the product expertise to be able to deliver integrations effectively. That is a key objectives. As a part of that, we have developed standards, processes. We go through a lot of training and governance. All that is being built into the COE. In this year, we have focused on taking on the MuleSoft, which is a primary integration or a middleware tool within PSEG. Next year, we'll be taking on JAMS and other related integration technology will follow through the same model. That's pretty much the Integration COE. Basically, instead of the projects taking on integration resources and driving them, projects will fund them. Project will provide the requirements and the COE will take it, run it, and provide the deliverables in conjunction with the PMO and the project's team. That's the overall goal. We operate in two models, mainly because of the transition that we are in right now. As we introduce the COE, our goal, the future, the way we want to operate is the one you see in the left, which is the centralized model. What I mean by here is the projects will fund them. They will provide the requirements and the overall guidelines. COE or C4E, as we interchangeably call, will be responsible for overall delivery, resources, etc. We also realized that as we put this process in place, there are a lot of existing projects and contracts that are already going on. For those projects, the COE will provide oversight and will still fold them into the process, but it's slightly different where the resources are owned by the projects and the ownership of COE is only around the governance portion. But for all new projects, the direction from the leadership is to move to a centralized COE model. Also, I'm going to flash a few teammates. Like I said, Bindu is the leader for this team, and I'm a consultant advisory to the team. I am from MuleSoft itself, and I help them with both on the strategic side as well as on the technology advisory side. We also have Priyanka, who's my co-presenter today, and a few other names. Some of you have worked with them. Sarat, who's been here in PSEG for a little over 10 years, acts as a platform architect. Balaya and Nitin are other consultants. They have deep integration expertise. We also have Julie as a part of the team. This COE team is expanding. There are now developers part of many projects. They are now being folded into COE. Bindu is in the process of hiring more architects and more developers based on the workload that is coming into FY22. That said, this kind of, I hope, gives a good overview of the integration COE overall. I will move into the next section, which is about, now that you understand integration COE, how does this map to stage gate? Priyanka, if you could unmute yourself and go through this, that'll be super helpful.
Thank you, Umesh. Good morning, everyone. I'm Priyanka Bommireddy, PM in the integration team. So since the stage gate process has been launched, it has gone through few iterations of review with the focus group sessions. So we as integration team also sat with the EPMO team and tried to understand the updates and incorporate those suggestions that we got from the focus group sessions. So recently, last month, we went through another cycle of update where we updated our COE deliverables. As you can see a tab for COE, which is highlighted in orange, while the deliverables are highlighted in blue. So we have identified what are the outputs or deliverables from each stage gate, which is marked by a check mark, while the radio buttons are the ones that are the tasks or the due diligence that needs to be done by every project team. Also, we try to highlight the templates. For example, the first stage gate, create concept, we have develop integration inventory. So we have provided the hyperlinks for the templates that we have designed, which the project teams can fill. So we have done this for the waterfall and the agile model. So we will go in detail about every deliverable and every tasks and who are the stakeholders identified for every gate. So over to you, Umesh, to provide us more details on that.
Thank you, Priyanka. I'm going to go through another tool which we developed for these processes. So I'm going to minimize this and go into the tool. And we have a PDF version of this tool, and it's also available in source. So we'll share all of that to you. So let's take a step back. Let's talk about a life of a PM as they go through the project cycle. In some cases, maybe PM and a GPM because the PMs are not assigned very early on. So like I said earlier, our goal here is to help the GPM and PMs to make sure that they plan the integrations, estimate the integrations, and more importantly, deliver the integrations on time and on budget. That's our goal here. With that said, during the create concept phase, this is where the GPMs kind of identify the use case. And if they see there is a scope for integration, our request to the GPMs, which we have already presented to them, is to contact the integration COE, and we will go through series of small steps. I understand this create concept should be very light. We respect that. And our goal is to identify how many integrations are being planned. What are the source system target systems? And are we talking, integrating customer data, not the field, but the entity name, customer data. It could be order data, something to that effect. This is our goal of this stage. The reason for collecting this information is to estimate, which will come to the next stage. I'm going to take a small pause here because when we were in the peer review session, we had a lot more details here. And one of the feedback we received was the create concept should be light. So we did incorporate those feedback. We removed quite a few tasks from here into the project initiation phase. And we also reduced what we are collecting in the integration inventory. So thanks for the feedback from the peer groups. We did incorporate that. So in short, in create concept phase, the only thing that the integration COE would be looking for is how many integrations are we developing and between what systems how we are developing. It could be like SAP and Salesforce. And what are the entities? When I say entity again, whether it's customer orders, etc. We're not looking into the details. or the field level. We just want to know what kind of data that you're integrating. This data will then feed into the next phase, which is the develop business case. The purpose of this phase is to estimate the effort for integration. Just want to also call out a few things that our team has put together. Anything that you see in green are resources that will come from the integration COE. Anything you'll see in this light yellow color is something that is from the projects. Again, we are working with the PMO to enhance the estimator tool, which would basically help the PMs and GPMs to identify the cost as well as the effort required. For example, if there are, say, 5 integrations, this estimator tool would help estimate, saying this 5 integration would cost you X amount of dollars, and it'll take Y amount of effort. And that's where I think we can plug it into the BCCT template. Also, we are enhancing the BCCT template to add a couple questions, which would help the executives who are reviewing this to understand the impacts of integrations. So the combination of these two are the changes that we are introducing into the BCCT template. I'll move on to the next stage, which is the project initiation stage. This is a stage where we think the project manager would definitely be assigned. So I'm going to take a little bit more time here to explain what we need and what kind of changes we get. One of the things that we are requesting the PM is to look at the stage gate process. These are various tasks. We have defined it across all the stages and work with the assigned integration architect and pull them into the project plan as appropriate. Think of these as a starting point of your project plan or various tasks. Again, we are not gone into the details and put down every project tasks, but these are guidelines by which you can say, okay, for an integration stream, we need to have these tasks in the project plan. And you can work with the integration architect, which will be identified by the integration COE's GPM, and they will together help you put that initial strong and project plan. Also want to call out, initially we had the scope and platform identification in the very early on in the create concept stage, and we have moved them here right now. There are a series of steps here. I don't think I'll have the time to go through this. So let me just quickly summarize our intent in this group, in this space. The integration architect would basically review existing standards. So what we have realized in the last 2 or 3 quarters is that the security reviews and other reviews take a lot of time. And we have pre-created patterns. Those are approved by security team, networking team. Think of those as Lego blocks. So, and for each of the Lego blocks, security has defined some guidelines. What the integration architect would do is take together those predefined Lego blocks and assemble them for an integration. This would enable the first 2 things. First, it will say, do we have only pre-approved patents? If so, our approval will be fast-tracked. Or if we have a new patent that we have not done it in PSEG, we know we have to go through a series of security approvals, networking approvals, and or other source and target system approvals. Then our time we need to do to complete this project is higher. So we'll be able to proactively identify any delays. In addition to that, other things the integration architect would help do is to update the user stories. Some of the challenges that we have seen today is our user stories are not complete from a from a non-functional requirement perspective, and in some cases with the detailed functional aspect as well. So we've defined those guidelines. You'll see some of these things called template, guidelines, standards, and samples. You will see across different tasks. That means, we have those templates. For example, if you see identify non-functional requirements specific to this project, we have a template. We have some guideline on what are all the NFRs we should be looking at. So the integration architects get help from COE with these artifacts. I'm going to quickly move on, and then I'll stop at the end so you can have your questions. So we'll move on as we go into the develop initial design phase. I'm going to make it a little bigger. We then go through patterns. Like I said earlier, we have defined a lot of integration patterns, and we want the team to start leveraging those patterns, both in terms of connectivity as well as in terms of integrations. That way, it is more of a Lego block approach. And this is where the team will help you build that integration. It will build a detailed integration in inventory. It'll put together a roadmap in conjunction with the project team. And eventually, what we will do is we will go into the architecture review board. This is one of the first review governance gate that COE conducts. In the past, some of you may be involved in these reviews where only integration COE is being involved. Based on feedback from projects, now all the ARB and the design review, which will come, is now involves integration COE, source system, target systems, security, and networking. So instead of projects going to individual team for approval, they will come to a single review board that integration COE runs, and the review and the integrations are looked in totality and are approved. So one of the things that we are hoping is this will reduce the burden on the projects and also will bring same information dissipated to different teams. So again, our hope is that based on the ERB, we will update the RFP if we need to go through that. That is one of the gating deliverables. I'll quickly go through others. I'm not sure if there are any questions, but I'll answer those at the end. As a part of the design phase, this is where the team is being bought on. When I mean team, the developers especially are being bought on. The integration architect continue to provide the oversight. The integration architect completes the detailed design, and we have a standardized template for detailed design, and we go through a formal design review. The difference between the architecture review and the design review is architecture review is done at a project or a program level. We look at it like 100,000 feet, whereas the design review is per API. We go into the details and try and understand, each of the APIs. Again, for the design review, we bring in the integration COE, the source systems, target systems, as well as the security and networking team or any other relevant team into the forum. So once the design review is approved, it is now then ready for the developers to start developing. So in the direct and manage phase, this is probably the longest phase, where I want to quickly highlight a couple of them. We are enforcing few standards. All our integrations have to have CI/CD. So to help the projects, we already have a template CI/CD project. So the developers can just download it from our exchange and start building. So the CI/CD is automated. And we are also enforcing automation of our test cases using MUnit. And then we go through a detailed code review. So the developers do the development based on certain guidelines. And we have detailed onboarding for developers as well, so they understand these standards. And then we go through a code review checklist. And only after the code review checklist approval do we allow the code to go in from the dev environment into the QA environment. So in the QA environment, the testing happens. The testing is still the owners of the testing team. The COE developers will resolve any bugs, but the testing is still owned by the project team, and the schedule are based on that. What we do is after the QA is completed, we understand there may be some bug fixes. We do an incremental code review, and also we have created a go live checklist that would help the team prepare for the cutover. And then as they go to staging environment, is basically a mock of production. And in the staging environment, the project team is responsible for doing end-to-end testing, performance testing, and any other testing needed by the project. I just want to call out here, in the API performance testing, there are multiple ways of performance testing, but we at least would require or recommend two of them. One is an API performance testing, which is more like testing the performance of the API. We request the project team to do it much earlier, say in the QA or end of the development cycle. And we would like to do an enhanced performance testing in the staging. The reason is that if there are performance implications, we don't want to find them very late in the game. Again, some of the lessons learned from the projects that has executed in the last few quarters is that performance testing is done very late, and any changes requires a change to the go live. We are trying to avoid that. So that's the reason for that. And eventually, we are also integrating ourselves into the PA process that all of you are aware of. That would basically, help, standardize the process. And I'll quickly go into the last one, which is the post-deployment. Once we go through the cutover process, we do have some housekeeping items, like making sure the exchanges are repository of all APIs. It's like a public portal, but only available to PSEG. And then we have some KPI dashboards that our team is beginning to build. We want to make sure the KPIs are reflected correctly. And more importantly, if there are any technical debts, we are ready to document them and come up with a plan. So this basically kind of highlights the overall process. I know I went through this quickly, and this is with purpose so that I can come back and answer the questions at the end. Let me just put this last slide. This is the last slide that I have. This kind of summarizes the key checkpoints and all the stage gate that are associated with it. I just want to reiterate, ARB is at a program level. Design review, code review, and go live review, or especially design and code review, are at a per API level, and go live and operation review are at per release level. I'll give you an example here. Say, for example, in OMS, we have around VMA or any project. OMS may not be the right example. That may be a project which, say, has 30 integrations. So as a part of the ARB, we look at this 100,000 foot level, how those 30 integrations are being built. In the design and code review, we go through each of the APIs, each 30 of them. And it could be possible that these 30 integrations are split into 3 releases. So there will be 3 go live and operation reviews. So again, we are aligning ourselves in based on the stage gate process, and we are flexible to work both on the waterfall or agile. And we are building quite a lot of templates. There are some documents, templates, that we have. And I will quickly go through that, but I kind of want to first open this forum for any questions you may have. And then I'll go into our Confluence site and SharePoint site, and then I will address those as well. But any questions so far? Looks like there are some questions in the chat. Okay, great questions. I'm going to go through that. I don't know, is somebody going to moderate, or can I start taking these questions, Salita?
Yes, Umesh, you can go ahead and take. We have just 3 questions in the chat. So if you'd like to go ahead and address those 3, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Will COE provide ongoing support for the integration? Great question. We are in the process of defining the operation support. The direction from the executive management is that integration COE will support all integrations that are built today and will be built in the future. Of course, it has to be funded by the project/business group, but yes, the support would be performed. Expect a little more detailed guidelines. At this point of time, we only have high-level guidelines, but within a few weeks, you should have a detailed guidelines on what is our model and what is our structure. Just to give some more details, Bindu has already have a model. We are now testing it with few projects. That's the reason there is some delay in publishing it. We just are going through, fine-tuning that. Wilson Dias, I hope that answered your question. Okay, I'll move on to the next one. This is from, yeah, sure.
Hi, this is Bindu. Hey, everyone.
Okay.
My machine had rebooted at the wrong time, so I just came right back. But I just want to add to what Umesh said. He did mention it, but just to emphasize on that, we are finding some of the projects did not allocate funding for the post-prod support. So going forward, please make sure to allocate the funding. To what Umesh said, the plan is for COE to support the APIs after they go live. It all has to be funded. There is no funding that IT is having for this. So please allocate funds for that, and that's how this effort will be funded going forward.
Okay, thank you, Bindu. Thanks for joining. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. There was a mention of updating an RFP in the developed design. How are integration charges handled? Is there a SOW for integration work, or is charge as T&M through a WBS code? I'll give a brief overview. Bindu, please feel free to pitch in. The purpose of this task, updating the RFP, is twofold. First, we want to make sure that RFP has detailed scopes, detailed dependencies listed. That's one of the objectives. Second, in terms of the RFP process, there are two possible paths. If the program has a predefined RFP, then integration COE will plug into it. Integration COE will review the estimate from the vendor, will be part of the team that reviews the dependency and help the program team to identify the right vendor. That is, the program has that. If for some reason the program or project does not have it, then integration COE is trying to bless standard SI partners with whom we can work with and have a contract if the COE does not have resources available for the time. So that's my initial thought process. Bindu, feel free to add.
Umesh, I'm not seeing the question, maybe because I joined Zoom later after the question posted. Could you repeat the question for me, please?
Yeah, sure. Can you see right now?
Or somebody just copy paste in chat now. I can see it.
Oh yeah, let me just read the question, Bindu. There was a mention of updating an RFP in develop initial design. How are the integration changes handled there in the SOW for the integration work, or is it charged as T&M through a WBS code?
So any time that the COE resources will spend, whether it's looking at the scope, helping define the SOW for RFP, or helping you estimate, or doing the reviews, governance, architecture, all those things that Umesh covered. The funding is all based on projects. If it is happening before it's an official project, there is a 9D provision to charge. So that will have to be followed. But each and every activity offered by the COE, the funding has to come from whichever project, whichever program or initiative is going to benefit from it. So that's the broad guideline. Now, is it a WBS or a standing order or a T code or all of that, we can figure out based on what stage you are in the life of the initiative and the project. But as a broad guideline, from Zishan, that's the model. All COE activities are to be funded by the project.
Right. So this is Bill Bindu. I guess one of the questions about the RFP. So the RFP is only an internal thing within the integration COE, I guess, and that, you know, you're just going out and getting additional resources if you need them.
Oh, no. What Umesh meant with an RFP is if a project is issuing an RFP, which defines what is the scope that you want the vendors to bid for, and there is a portion of the scope that has integration in it. So the COE person working with you can help define the integration scope well, so that when we select a vendor, the scope is defined adequately, and we don't get surprised by, because the scope wasn't defined properly, the vendor didn't quote enough, and later on it became much bigger than what it was initially intended to be. That's what the RFP here is for a project or for an initiative. If we need to go get resources, that's separate, we'll just manage it. That's not what we are bringing here in the RFP.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I'll move on to the next question. Is an overall PSCG message model, is an ESB going to be used? Albert, I don't know, what do you mean by message model? Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, this is Al Amadeo. I've done messaging when I was at FPL, and we had an overall message model for the organization. And the message model basically had all of the attributes, all of the, I guess I could say the attributes of all of the systems that we had, and everything was identified centrally. So
Okay.
if people are using variables, if people are using definitions, it all came from one message model. This way, we didn't have something called, you know, kilowatt, and then somebody else called it KW and somebody else called it something else. So we had a standard message model across the organization. Is something like that going to be in place?
At least not yet. I know this is a great thought we have had, but in order to pull that through, the kind of effort we need is very high. So not in the near term, but in the long term, yes. It's a we call it as data dictionary, enterprise data dictionary, which has all the data models of all the systems and all the entities. No, we don't have that, or isn't there in our short document. But we do have enterprise service bus. MuleSoft is the next generation of the enterprise service bus capability. ESBs have evolved within the enterprise landscape now. They are more as an integration platform, offering a lot more than ESB. Yes, MuleSoft is that tool which offers ESB and additional integration platform capabilities.
And is the
Hey,
COE?
this is Patrick. Yeah, just one moment, please. This is Patrick. So just a thought. One thing that I think we all sometimes have great ideas about is improvement. And I heard the comment about, you know, the data dictionary, and I think one way to mitigate what you're talking about and the need for standardization is to start small in iterations as we go through these projects, and to keep those as they come along consistent. Because the only way that we could do something that's going to be at this scale is to start small. So just having gone through this a number of times with different industries and with different utilities, it's just a thought. I encourage you to start small and then build up, which is, I think, the intent. But especially with the data dictionary, you know, start with your immediate project, perhaps. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
Thanks.
I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, no, thanks,
no problem.
Good thought. We'll definitely consider those. I think there was Albert. You had some follow-up questions. Sorry.
Yeah, which group is going to own the service bus?
Integration COE. All the tasks that you see here is related to MuleSoft. And that's what I added in my preface. For 2021, the integration COE owns MuleSoft. In 2022, we will add JAMS to it. And in the quarters to come, any other integration tool will be added to the integration COE and will be kind of synergized. We will know which tool to use. And if there are any duplicate tools, we'll have a plan to remove them. So yes, it is integration COE under Bindu.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so there is another question from Jim York. This is good for software project. How will this work for hardware and infrastructure project? Like I said, the integration COE scope is limited to software integration. It does not cover hardware and infrastructure integration. That's not a part of the scope. I think there may be, if you could give some use cases of hardware integration, we can definitely talk or probably identify the right team. Jim? Okay, I'll move on. Jim, if you have, you can come back later. Who sets acceptable? I'll move on to the next question. Who sets acceptable performance parameters? How about any load testing? What tools will be used for load testing? It is totally decided by the project team. My understanding is that PSEG is setting up testing center of excellence, and that team would be responsible for finalizing the tools, and the performance parameters will be finalized by business. Integration COE, of course, have some guidance based on our past experience, what we have seen, but those two teams will be responsible for it. Bindu, you want to add a little bit more to it? I know the testing COE is an ongoing effort, but anything if you want to add would be very helpful.
Yeah, sure. So team, everyone knows, right? The testing center of excellence is being set up, but it will take some time. Some of the projects, like we met with the OMS team yesterday, they're all looking at performance testing and have a performance test plan and stuff. So certainly encourage every project team to incorporate performance testing during the development cycle and not just at the tail end. MuleSoft is still a very new platform. So the more you exercise, the more you run through it and more testing you do to make sure it's meeting the application SLAs that you might have early on in the life cycle of the project. In general, it's a good practice to do that early on, but certainly make sure your projects have that. Load Runner is the tool that has been used, is continuing to be used. At this point, I have not heard of any changes on that, but then again, as testing COE gets set up completely, they might have some recommendations there. It is fully project team's responsibility to make sure the load testing gets done, because typically it is more than just APIs. It is more end-to-end load is what you put it through. So while the integration people, whoever developed the APIs, will participate in that, it's more of an end-to-end load that you're testing. So use the tools that are out there today, and as new tools come up, then you will obviously be notified.
Okay. Thank you, Bindu. I'll move on to the next question. What is the timing for bringing JAMS into the integration COE? I believe Bindu already answered, it's Q1. So that also folded into the integration COE. That is all the questions I had. Any other questions before I show some of our Confluence pages?
This is Bobby here. I just wanted to state that given that this is going to be a centralized model, how do you anticipate competing priorities, and how can we, make sure it's an optimized model?
Bindu, you want to take this, please?
Yeah, sure. So Bobby, again, I wanted, before I answer this question, I want to mention one thing, and maybe it was mentioned while I was battling with my machine reboots and stuff. Currently, MuleSoft platform is a utility asset because they paid for it. So currently, it is entirely being used for utility projects. It is not being used for any services or power projects. We have another LI-owned platform as well. So certainly LI has an instance, utility has an instance. If I know this group spans across all towers. So if the power group or services group finds a need where they might have integrations, so then come and talk to me, because we'll have to figure out how to even set up a different instance for you. You can't share the utility instance. So I just wanted to put it out there in case people thought that it was open for all. So today, utility only, but it is a technology that we have settled on. So it can certainly be used for other use cases as they come up. So far, all use cases are coming from utility. Coming to Bobby, your question. Right now, we are juggling two models, operating models. Centralized is more longer term, but while COE was being set up and we were defining the processes and how the operations would work, a lot of projects were already getting in flight. So we are supporting those projects from the outside by doing these governance reviews. In some cases, we have inserted a person in the team if there was a lot of work needed. So we are supporting that. As those projects wind down, the plan is certainly to move more and more towards the centralized model. So a lot of planning would be required. Upfront information would be required so that we can get the resources in time for when the project will need them. So it'll all come to better planning, better communication, better notification of which project needs what kind of scope, when, and that's where a very well-defined scope and user stories would come in very, very useful, so that we estimate the scope well, the size well, and we put the right number of resources. So that's what I can tell you right now. The more people can communicate back to us about their needs and scopes, the better we'll be able to plan.
Hey, thank you, Bindu. I'll move on to the next one. I assume, Bobby, that answered your question. If not, please feel free to raise again. In the next few minutes, I'll quickly go through a couple of things. We do have a SharePoint dedicated to the integration COE. We're now starting with MuleSoft. When Jam's comes in, we'll add in Jam's content as well. Majority of the presentation that we walked through are here. And there are some very good links here. I'll quickly touch some of them. One of them is the execution process. That what you saw here is all here in this page, including the detailed stage gate process. And if you go into the platform, we talked about those reusable patterns in our presentation. These are pre-approved by security. Those patterns are also available. Then we also have a lot of assets for the team to follow. Maybe the platform, how it is deployed, maybe the runbook, maybe onboarding guide. There is a whole lot that is available in this site. We, as a part of the COE, are developing 48 assets. I think we are close to 50% of it complete now. Some of them are in progress. Some of them are yet to begin, and we have grouped them by stage gate, and where those documents are available once it's complete is also available. So people can come here and can look at all the assets that the COE has produced that can be readily reused. And the other part that I want to quickly go through, which your team would use, is those 5 gating reviews. Remember, we saw about ARB, design reviews, code reviews, etc. What we have done for each of them, we have written down detailed notes, when to do it, in which state to do it, what kind of templates do you need, how to request A or B review, and who all will be part of the review is also identified. These reviews are tracked formally in a SharePoint list. We can go back. Most of these are recorded sessions as well as for people to join in later, and we go through formal approval process. And this is true for architecture, design, go live, and code review, which has already been formally published. We are in the process of writing down the same for operations. So I encourage the team to go ahead and look here. Also, I'll quickly go through. We do have a SharePoint site where we maintain all our documentation. This has some of the templates and others. What would be a wealth of information is if you're doing an integration and you want to probably go and look at similar documentation. I did something similar and I want to do a documentation. I'm going to pull OMS as an example here. So those documents, what is approved or for review is all available for you. For example, these are some of them are up for review. So those documents can be used as a reference. So the combination of SharePoint and the Confluence should give the team a good head start. And of course, the integration COE is always available to help answer any questions you may have. We do have a DL, and as a part of this presentation, we'll publish the DL as well to you. So essentially, what we have done in the COE process is defined a project execution process, developed or in the process of developing all the associated templates, and then help the project team and work with them to make sure the integration deliverables are first defined correctly and are also delivered and managed after delivery. That's our goal. Again, we are relatively a new team, just a couple quarters. I think we've made some great stride. We worked with some of the project teams, constantly looking for feedback for improvements. So please leverage these resources. Contact us when there is integration needs. We're here to help to achieve the common outcome, but in a standardized way that is going to benefit PSEG in the long term. Bindu, do you want to add anything more? Those are my comments.
I think, yeah, we have certainly been meeting with, we have a monthly forum to meet with the utility GPMs, and we have a bi-weekly with the project managers. So there are a lot of touch points. Certainly we are trying to align more and more with the PMO process. There is work going on between PMO team and COE team. That's where this whole stage gate updates were made. Now, next, they're going to work towards enhancing the estimation tool so that when you use the tool to estimate for your project, you don't have to do anything special for integration. It's all baked into that. So trying to simplify the adoption of these new additional things that we are putting in. The purpose here is to do a little bit extra work, but more to streamline the execution of the project and reduce the surprises that sometimes we all face in the projects just because the earlier phases didn't do as detailed a job as was needed. So any questions, any comments, suggestions, feel free to send it to me, Umesh, that alias that is on the source page. We all watch that and keep the communication going. Like I said, it's important to communicate about when you will need what. The COE team doesn't have tens or of people sitting and ready to jump onto whatever comes. So a lot of planning is required so that we can onboard the resources as and when they're required. Funding has to be made sure that you have the funding for any activity that you're going to require COE to do. Let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, Umesh, can you paste the links to the SharePoint and the Confluence page in the chat? And do all the PMs have access to those sites?
I I know Source definitely has, the Confluence definitely has. The SharePoint, I mean, if you don't have it, please request. And the presentation that we are going to share, I assume, also will have these links.
Thanks.
So I added those 2 links, Bill. Any other questions? Sorry, back to you, Salita.
No problem. Thank you, Umesh and Priyanka, for a very informative session. Thank you, Bindu, for your comments and your guidance. And I'd also like to thank the PM review team for providing input and feedback. It's always appreciated. As Umesh noted, the presentation will be distributed after this meeting, which will contain all of the links that you need to access the information. So look for that distribution, likely later on today. If there are no other comments or questions, we will go ahead and close this session. Thank you for your attendance today and your participation. The IT EPMO team would like to wish you and your family a happy holiday season to those who celebrate, and we hope that you experience health and happiness in the new year. Thank you again. Thanks again for attending, and have a great day.
Thanks, Salita, for facilitating this session. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving us
Thanks.
this opportunity. Thanks.